Hi guys, and welcome to Dee's Media World. Today we'll be doing episode 29 in my Inuyasha review series, Sango's Suffering and Kohaku's Life. So, if you couldn't tell by the title of the episode, this is about Sango and what's going on with Kohaku, basically. Even though, like, the first 5 minutes or so are about Kagome and her brother a little bit and her being in school. Stuff nobody really cares about, to be honest. But, I'll summarize it anyway. It starts off with Grandpa trying to think of a new illness for Kagome, and finds out he could just use something as obvious as a cold. Why hasn't he just said she has the same illness every time? Like, just give her one really bad illness and then just keep saying, it's because of that illness she can't come to school. I knew people like that. They had the same medical problem, and that's why they couldn't show up to school. So, anyway, Kagome, for some reason, forgets all her books at home, and then her brother brings them to school. And it's kind of like, it's supposed to be sort of like not really a cute moment, I guess, but like sort of little brothers, they're always there for you kind of stuff, which is nice, I suppose. But anyway, get to the meat of the episode a little bit. We found out that Naraku has been using Kohaku. Kohaku's still alive, under Naraku's control and stuff like that. There's a scene where Inuyasha's practicing using the Tensaiga, because in the last episode, he slays like 100 demons or something like that, or a lot of demons at once. And Naraku knows this, so he's like, let me get someone he can't kill, or he would have a complicated thing with killing him. And then, that comes back later on in the episode. Inuyasha and Moroku are talking about, surprisingly, kind of an intellectual conversation between the two, about what they're going to do. What's going to be the plan. Inuyasha's like, I gotta master Tensaiga, that kind of stuff. Stuff that's weak, needs to be talked about. Sango and Kagome also are talking about what's going on, except Sango finds out Kagome is the one who broke the jewel, and I think that was episode 2, right? Yeah, that was a long time ago, actually. It feels like a long time ago, but she broke the jewel into mini shards. And Sango just finding out that. I guess Moroku knows that. I don't know. I don't think she ever directly told Moroku. And we see that Sango has this really messed up, her whole back pretty much has a scar from when Kohaku hit her with his weapon. And she was saying how it didn't really heal, and how she still she loves her brother, kind of thing. She's sad she couldn't save him, but she seems at peace with it though. Like, she's at peace with the fact that he died. And that's why it kind of is so messed up that Naraku sort of brings him back to life just to torture Sango more. So, anyway, there's this kind of funny scene where Sango throws a rock at a monkey, thinking it's like Moroku or something. And then the real Moroku and Inuyasha come over, and then they get beat up and stuff. I was thinking that Sango was actually covered up, though. Kagome was the one who was naked, so I'm sure she was even extra pissed off. Oh, before I leave this scene, I almost forgot something that is kind of funny. When they're deciding if they're going to go in the hot springs or not, because they don't know if the other two men or Sango doesn't know if the other two men will peek at them, and she said, Sango's like, I know Moroku would, but would Inuyasha be peeking at us? And Kagome's like, he would. Like, she says it almost bitterly. Like, no, he wouldn't. He's like, he's a cold fish. He's a cold fish. And Sango's like, so you want him to look? Innocently, she asked this, but I wanted to know what Kagome's response to that was, because Kagome has this weird thing where she kind of, I think that's kind of why people think women are complicated. Because I sort of understand where Kagome's coming from. She basically wants Inuyasha to want to look at her. Basically, she doesn't actually want him to come over peeking like Moroku does, but she wants him to desire her, basically. Like, she wishes that he would want her, basically. She doesn't actually want him to come over there and look at her in the hot springs, but the fact that she would feel better about herself if he wanted to look at her, basically. It's kind of like if you're like in a relationship or something, and then someone tells you that someone else finds you attractive. Like, it's not really relevant. You don't really want someone else to like you when you already like someone else. But it's the idea that, hey, this person finds me attractive. That kind of boosts your confidence. This is essentially what Kagome kind of wants, is to feel a certain way, basically. Anyway, as I said previously, I think a couple episodes ago, that, you know, Kagome obviously at this point is sort of falling in love with Inuyasha, has a crush on him, whatever. Um, anyway, let's see. The next day, Kagome, what is Kagome? Something about her brother, and but she's being really insensitive to Sango. Like Sango just told her last night, you know, her brother died and everything, and here you are complaining about your brother, about how he thinks he's like smart, he's so smart and whatever. He's really a cute kid. Like Soda seems like a good little brother to me, but I don't have a little brother, so I don't know what it's like. But when she's really being she's being insensitive. She totally forgot that Sango told her everything, because she almost pulled an Inuyasha, like not with the brassness of it, but just the total lack of sensitivity. And Sango's actually not hurt. She's just like, okay, you know, you have a good brother. What do you want me to say? Like she's not angry about it. She's kind of at peace with that he died. But anyway, the next thing, there's this dead man walking to them, and then they go to the nearby village and find out that it's loaded with traps. And you know, if you want to go buy the dead bodies, because it's all the people have been murdered. If you want to go try to bury them, because that's what Moroku and Inuyasha have been doing. Last couple of villages is that if they've been murdered, they would go and you know, take care of business. They will go and bury the people, which is the only thing you can do, right? And finds out that it's a trap. Like there's a bunch of bombs all over the place. You go near it, you'll get blown to pieces. Inuyasha, being the kind of person he is, doesn't care. Goes around, throws a sword at the nearest hut, and Kohaku's inside. And I think him and Inuyasha fight for a second or whatever. And Sango is in shock. She's in shock, of course, because she cannot believe that this person is her brother. She knows, she just said her brother died. How could he possibly be back to life? All that kind of stuff. And Kagome, I was saying, one thing that was in my notes was that, you know, Kagome hears Sango say Kohaku, and she's like, is that what she said? Did she say Kohaku? And I was thinking, we hear a lot of Kagome's thoughts in this episode, like what Sango and Kagome, what they're thinking. And I'm like, yeah, that's the thing in the show, like you hear what the characters think sometimes, but like I feel like I'm hearing a lot of what Kagome's thinking. But anyway, this is actually kind of amusing. Sango actually, when Kohaku leaves and she's going to follow, Sango throws up Kilala like she's like a Pokemon ball or something, and then Kilala kind of like excuse me, like tourist, and then transforms. It's really funny to me because it really reminded me of Pokemon. And then Sango, I don't even know why she had to do all that. And then Sango pretty much leaps, almost pretty much flies to get on Kilala. Not even get on Kilala, but hold on to Kilala so they can chase after Kohaku. But I just found that funny because it's like she throws her up like that. It's just silly, but I liked it. They chase after Kohaku. This is basically what the episode's about, because there's been a lot of, I guess, a little bit of exposition before this point. There's character development, I suppose you could say. Like, oh, well, you know, what's Kagome Sango's relationship, but this is what really the episode's about. Like, what you need to get out of it is Naraku's manipulating Kohaku. So he claims that he salvaged his life, even though technically he's responsible for him dying, but you know, whatever. He put a jewel shard in his bag, just like he did with Sango, except he wants Sango to bring Naraku to Tensaiga, which is Inuyasha's sword, and who will give Kohaku to her is the assumption. Of course, Naraku can't be trusted, so this is like a tricky thing, and it's portraying Inuyasha, right? So also, if Naraku admits that he has erased Kohaku's memories, so because she's confused if that's even her brother or not, or whatever, and it actually is. So Naraku says, and he just erased his memories, and that's why he acting like a puppet and shit like that. So. He murdered a whole village, but he's not, I guess, in his consciousness, he's not aware of this, like, of what his life is like, who Sango is, because he sees Sango, blank stare, he doesn't know who she is. Roku is actually really understanding, and, because, okay, so when Sango leaves, because they go into a barrier or whatever, and, just Sango and Kilala, and Roku, and then they can't go in. But when Sango finally comes out later, Kagome's like asking her all these questions, like what happened, like basically what happened, yada yada. Was that your brother? What happened in there? And Sango's like, she doesn't really, she don't want to talk about it. But Moroku was actually really understanding here, because he's like, I know you must be exhausted. Let's just go home. Let's go to sleep and stuff like, or whatever. You gotta do what you gotta do. And I was thinking, even he's not being like a pervert or anything. And I know Moroku's an understanding person, but I realize rewatching the show now, and so far anyway, is that Moroku, while he has his stupid moments with women, he's more mature than Kagome. Like, Kagome is usually the queen of, like, comforting someone, being what's the word, empathetic to someone's needs. But she wasn't really that empathetic this episode. Like, talk about her brother, obviously, when Sango just lost her brother, her younger brother, bombarding Sango with questions, and Moroku's like, just being understanding here, and I really like that. Let's see. There's a scene. It's not funny, but when Shibbo, who's yapping on about how great Kilala is at sniffing out bombs, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell everybody," yada yada, doing all this talking, and Kilala just walks away, and even she's depressed. Like, from our understanding, Kilala understands English, or Japanese technically, but she understands everything, and she knows that this is like a messed up situation, and even for a cat, like a little cat demon who can't talk, which, you know what, is Kilala like the only character in the show who can't talk? No, she's not. Never mind. I thought so, but never mind. There's another couple characters who can't talk. But anyway, but yeah, the fact that even Kilala is depressed, like, and that's all. I was like, oh, I feel your pain. And then the next scene, Inuyasha, as insensitive as he is, but he's understanding of the situation, comes over and is like, we can't just let Kohaku, which is true, we can't just let Kohaku get away with this. So he's like, what's the punishment here? Am I going to have to kill Kohaku? He doesn't really say it like that, but he's like, I'm going to kill Kohaku. And he's like, oh, is that okay with you, Sango? Hey, Sango over there, is that okay with you? And Sango's like, she gives him this gold hell, like, the look, it can't even be said without, like, cursing, because, yeah, that's a really insensitive thing to say. The difference between Inuyasha's insensitivity and Kagome's is that Inuyasha is intentional in this episode. He knows he's being a jerk. He knows he's blunt. He says what is on his mind. He's keeping it real. And I think that's why it didn't bug me that he did it, because I'm like, that's who Inuyasha is. Granted, he's in a similar situation with Kikyo, and probably wouldn't want the same thing to happen, because, if someone said, hey, maybe we should kill Kikyo because she killed, that monk in that one episode or something like that, or she's killing, these young village women, or I think it was princesses or village women, dead women, to get their souls. But nobody, I bet you this, if someone mentioned, hey, we should kill Kikyo because she's done that, like, that's wrong, or re-kill Kikyo, whatever, he wouldn't be for it. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you're a little bit of a hypocrite. Later on in the show, I remember him being even more of a hypocrite than this. But he should be able to relate to Sango the most, right? And I think they talk about that in the next episode. But you would think he would be a little more sensitive. But Inuyasha just whatever. He's whatever. And then there's like a little scene with innocent memories, and Kohaku not being that good in training, and him not, maybe he wasn't fit out to be a slayer, and I agree. But he was a kid too. That's why I didn't understand a couple episodes ago when they went to the house, why they even brought him along, because he was an apprentice. If you're bringing your whole team with you to go defeat a demon, you probably should leave like the apprentice home then, because it must be really dangerous. But it doesn't matter anyway, because he would have been killed either way. Because yeah. Any case, what do I think of this episode? I like it okay. The next episode's better, much better. This episode is clearly, as I was saying about the show in general, there's a lot of times in the show where it feels like one episode is the first half of the next episode, but they don't call it that. So like this episode's called Sango's Suffering and Kohaku's Life, but the next one's not going to be called part 2 of that or anything. It's going to be called something else. I forgot what it's called, but it's basically you have to see this episode to kind of understand the context of what happens next. And the show's generally like that. I mean, of course the show has filler. Inuyasha has a lot of filler in it, but like, this isn't what I was referring to, is not the filler, but the fact that they don't really acknowledge part 1 and part 2. There might be 2 or 3 episodes in the whole show that get the first part and second part. I know Faithful Night and Togenkyo it's called Part 1 and Part 2. And then there might be one other episode, but that's it, really. But you do need to see this one to see the next one. I do like this episode. I like Sango, and you feel bad for her, but you like that Sango isn't someone who spends a lot of time pitying herself or feeling. She was actually having, before finding out her brother's alive, she was actually sort of having a relatively positive outlook. Like, the situation. I have accepted that I have to defeat Naraku. I've accepted that, my brother is dead, but, that's how it is. I have good memories of him, but now it's not like that anymore. Her brother is a murderer, even though he doesn't know it. But yeah, like those feelings that Sango's she's a little depressed, I think. I'm not saying she's walking around like with her head head high and joyous or anything, but she's accepted what's going on. Like, she's not in denial that this is a complicated situation. But overall, yeah, this is a good episode. Not a great one, just good. The animation's solid. There is a part where Kagome is running, and it's really funny to me. When she runs to Sango, after Inuyasha says that really insensitive statement about, hey, we need to kill your brother. And the way she runs is comical to me. But yeah, this is a good episode. Can't wait for the next one. Bye, guys.